Welcome to Business Talk, presented in collaboration with the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, from the heart of southeastern Ohio at the University of Rio Grande TV studio. Our goals are simple: promote the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, as well as advocate local small business and their support organizations. More importantly, promote southeastern Ohio as a wonderful place to live, explore, and learn. There are many different ways you can find us. The University of Rio Grande Cable Access Channel 17, live online at blogtalkradio.com, and on YouTube if you are unable to catch our show live. Introducing our co-hosts, Jason Winters, Mike Thompson, Patrick Dengel. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
And he's had a lot of involvement with different businesses and organizations, and he really comes to the University of Rio Grande with a lot of experience.
And you've been here on campus now since, what, April 15th, the middle of April, something
That's
like
right.
that?
So it's
3 weeks?
3 weeks and 2 days. I hear this is the initiation that everyone gets put through, is going straight on this show. I've heard great things about this show, so thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brownie points will get you nowhere, but thank you very much. So, Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your family history.
Sure. I grew up in Southern Illinois. I went to school at University of Illinois.
Yeah, the Fighting Illini.
The Fighting Illini.
Yes.
There's a lot of OSU fans here. I consider myself a full-fledged member of the Big Ten. Always root for the Big Ten. So I actually went there on a wrestling scholarship. So I was a wrestler back then, and then ended up traveling around a little bit, but ended up working for J.P. Morgan Chase in Columbus. So Ohio is not foreign to me. I've actually been here before, and we had a business down here during that time. I was in organizational development then, and some of you out there may have shopped at one time or another at a Robin's Nest Country Boutique. We had a really good time with that. It was about 6 years, maybe 7 years that we did that. And then I ended up moving down to Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and worked for an organization called Kentucky Innovation Network. And the purpose of Kentucky Innovation Network was to stimulate, help enable businesses to get their start. These were high-tech, innovative businesses. So 120 counties. I was responsible for part of the Western region, and all of that has made me excited to do what I am now going to be doing in workforce development.
Well, since you mentioned workforce development, a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are out there and they're saying, what is workforce development? What is workforce development, and how does it relate to Rio?
So workforce development is a theory that is essentially a strategy for economic development. So that's really important to note right up front. It's a people-based theory. So the idea is, and I'll give you an example. So if you have a business that comes to town, or they're looking to come to town, they want to know that they're going to be able to adequately staff their company or their concern with high-skilled, trained workforce. If they don't have that, then it's unlikely that they'll be able to feasibly locate in an area. So first off, I think that it's workforce's responsibility to use the resources and the network that they have available to them to ensure that that the workforce itself, that adults in the area, are trained to do what prospective companies need them to do. So, but there's different pieces of that as well. You also have, now this particular workforce development position works with the community college and the university. So it kind of shoulders the burden of representing the college and university out in the area, and is responsible for marshaling the resources within the college to make sure that there are training programs set up that match the jobs that are going to be available or that are available out in the community. So
I'm a little confused, Ian. I hear you saying that the Field of Dreams theory doesn't always apply. So if they build it, they won't come?
I think actually that, let me take you to a story. So three Masons. There was a student that walked up to the first Mason and said, what are you doing? And the mason said, I'm laying brick. What does it look like I'm doing? So the student goes to the second mason and says, what are you doing? And the second mason says, I'm building a wall. So the student goes to the third mason and says, what are you doing? And the third mason steps back from his work, looks up in the sky, smiles, and says, I'm building a cathedral. So in a roundabout way of answering your question, there's a number of ways that that metaphor can be interpreted, but you're responsible, I think, for seeing what's possible, for having a vision of what's out there. You have people that are emerging into the workforce. You have people that exist in the workforce. You have folks that are entrepreneurs that are going to be creating their own ventures in the workforce, and then you have transitional folks. And another example would be if you have existing companies out there, I feel, and a lot of folks feel, that it's responsible for them to develop their people. That was my responsibility at JP Morgan Chase, was making sure that we had frontline associates that were empowered, that could make decisions that were very important to the company, because we viewed it, were the experts at what they did. So where that applies here is that if you develop your workforce within your company, you make sure that not only do they have that you meet certifications regarding OSHA and safety requirements, but you're actually developing their soft skills, their leadership skills, and several other concerns that you're going to make your company better. You're actually going to generate more revenue because you'll have a better trained workforce, then you'll bring more revenue into the area, and then you create more jobs, and you attract the potential for other companies to come and exist in your area as well. So it really is, in my view, it is pie in the sky, because there's a lot of things that it can touch, and it's one of those jobs that can be sort of amorphous, because depending on what the stakeholders want from it, you have to be attentive to that. But at the same time, there are a lot of different organizations, and since I've been here, I've met great people out in the community, at Job and Family Services, within the institution, the deans, and there's a lot of people that are already doing things, in this direction. So
one of the interesting things, if you study the MSAs, the metropolitan service areas, first of all, Gallia County is in the Huntington, Charleston MSA, Metropolitan Service Agency. We also touch Steubenville. Mm-hmm. If we were to draw a circle, a radius of 50 miles, we would just be real close to Columbus. We would be right on the fringes of Lexington, and in a little bit, we're probably too far from Cincinnati. And in a 50-mile radius, I think we're looking at, 500,000 individuals that work at various different organizations. And so the question comes down to, you're not only serving Gallia County, you're also serving communities.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Steubenville. I'm actually visiting there tomorrow. We have formed a consortium of 5-member institutions for a grant that we're working on to address workforce jobs, accelerated pathways to employment, and Eastern Gateway happens to be one of the institutions that we're working with.
Good. There are, I agree with you, there are a lot of fine individuals, and we are right. Gallia County is right on the edge of Kentucky and right on the edge of West Virginia, mm-hmm. and so it has a tri-state flavor to it. So students that come to the University of Rio Grande Community College really don't just come from Gallia County. They come from many different areas.
Right, that's right. And it's important to remember that when you think about your strategy. While we're on the subject, I'll talk a little bit about adult learners. Transitional workforce is one of the biggest areas of concern for workforce development right now. We have TAA, trade adjustment assistance, for workers who through no fault of their own, their company does manufacturing, and the manufacturing gets shipped overseas because it's less expensive to do overseas. And so you have these manufacturing plants that are closing down. You're seeing this, and so you have a number of high-paid, skilled, talented workers who basically are left without that opportunity anymore. And so one strategy is to make sure that you can figure out ways to give them college credit. And a lot of that's the adult learning piece of it. And prior learning assessments is big in that. Rio Grande does a very good job with that. And you make sure that they're paired up with opportunities where they can take the skills that they've utilized in their workforce before and apply them to a new available job. So when you talk about the surrounding area, if 50 miles away a plant closes, it's something that we want to be aware of, and we want to definitely find ways to get people out to them and make them aware of opportunities here to where they can kind of fix their situation possible.
So really your position as workforce development is really a liaison between the businesses in the community and the university itself to help develop the employees that they already have to make them better, useful employees and more efficient and effective.
That's right.
But also on the university side, you're a liaison coming back and saying, look, the community needs this program or needs that program, or we need to think about moving into this area of study, and so we can meet the needs of what's going on.
Right.
So it's kind of a give and a take both ways.
That's exactly right. You have some regions in Ohio right now that are seeing a lot of growth and in the area of oil and gas. So northeast of us, so Eastern Gateway, that's one of their big focuses. Zane State, that's one of their focuses, is making sure that they have folks, welders and people that are equipped to deal with the oil and gas boom, while we see what happens with that industry. But at the same time, there's hospitality industry, and you got to think from their standpoint. They need to make sure that if you look at four of the top 6 growing jobs in this decade, 4 of the 6 are service jobs. Mm-hmm. So, and the other 2 are healthcare. So, you really do have to be aware from a regional standpoint of what opportunities are out there, and working with chambers of commerce, working with board heads and folks on boards that are involved in the community or have their own business interests out there as well. They can help connect the dots when it comes to reaching out to those folks that can help in that area as well.
I think another area deals with the influx of cultures, different cultures. When I was growing up, travel wasn't as emphasized as it is now.
Is that because you had to get the horse and the buggy out?
Well, now that I was hoping you wouldn't mention that. But before the turn of the century, we started seeing cars. Believe it or not, we had our first car was a 1949 Chevy, and there was plenty of room in the back seat. But you didn't want the middle of the seat because there was a big hump.
Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Car Talk.
Back then, communities were not isolated, but communities were of one mind. Rarely did individuals leave the area. Rarely did individuals work more than one job all of their life. And now we're seeing such a insurgence of different cultures and different nationalities and individuals that lived in one part of the country coming to live here, right, in Gallia. And that creates opportunities, I would venture to say, for businesses that we'd never thought about.
Right. So you definitely have the influx of folks that bring a different cultural flavor to your area, expose you to things and then create new markets, essentially. Another thing we haven't really touched on that I think relates to what you're saying is the idea of entrepreneurial workforce. And I will say from Kentucky, one of our biggest concerns was you have folks that grow up in Western Kentucky. It's very rural. There's not a large metropolitan area. You want to make sure that they have that when youth grows up and they go to college, if they're able to go locally, then that's great. If they have to go away to college, if they have to go to Louisville or UK, you want to make sure,
or Rio Grande University.
or Rio Grande University,
Yeah.
right? You want to make sure that they have jobs that they can come back to, and so that was a huge interest. And I wasn't the only member down there that served entrepreneurs. We had the several folks that were actually interested in doing that, and that was one big part of it, is making sure. And I think that where it comes to workforce, that's another say tool in the toolbox, is to inspire folks or make them aware of the different types of entrepreneurship that are available. I kind of want to talk a little bit about high tech and innovative, because there are several studies now that suggest that it seems like those high tech jobs are high tech entrepreneurial ventures are ones that will potentially bring jobs to rural areas, and that's kind of a big concern for all non-metropolitan areas. So essentially, you want to make sure. When I helped in Kentucky, I'll give you an example of one company that I worked with was Two Rivers Fisheries, and what they did was they fished Asian carp and other fish out of the Ohio River. And the reason that this is important is that Asian carp, I don't know if you know this or you've probably heard about this, but it's a huge invasive species. They breed rapaciously. They are they eat the food that basically makes other fish in the river able to survive, and they're making their way up to the Great Lakes, and some say that they've already kind of penetrated there, but what Two Rivers Fisheries said was, well, we have kind of a commercial solution to this problem. I think it's about $50 million a year gets applied towards this problem. And they said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fish them out. We're going to fish them out of the river, and then we're going to export them overseas in, millions of pounds. And then, because there's a huge market for Asian carp over there, it hasn't quite caught on here. It's kind of a strong fish, so it's not one that Americans love yet. But they said, this is a way that we can apply a commercial solution to an existing environmental problem. So that's an example of the type of industry or the type of business that I worked with for a little while to help them.
Well, that's rather interesting, because most individuals, when they hear high tech, they're probably thinking a place where you make microchips, a place that is NASA space ready. In reality,
right.
Sometimes there's a misconception about what high tech.
That's why,
are.
yeah.
How do you get high tech in fishing?
Well, the Asian carp seems to be an easy fish to get. I think that I've seen videos where you
They
just
fly out of the water.
yeah,
don't they?
you just drive down the river in a boat
Hold out
and they
a-
just jump in.
Hold out a basket. Yeah,
It's-
they knock people out of boats.
It's pretty
so-
spectacular. You're driving down the river and these things are just like flying out of the river.
Out of the Ohio River.
Yeah.
No.
Pull it up on
Not
Google.
yet.
There's pictures out of there.
Up the Mississippi.
So anyway, yeah. Your question was what?
There
well, that's
seems to
what-
be a misconception about what high tech really is.
And
yeah.
then you asked about fishing.
Yeah. How is fishing high tech?
Well, innovation. That's why we say high tech or innovative, because we really, one of the, especially in Western Kentucky, when I had a lot of rural inventors, I had folks that were, yes, I had my millennial folks that were inventing apps. I had 2 app clients, and they were creating, in the healthcare field. But then I also had somebody that was inventing an implement to a piece of scaffolding to help contractors and people that are working on drywall hanging and that sort of thing. So in order to make sure that we incorporate all forms of innovation, we're kind of had moved away a little bit from from saying high tech, just because it had that connotation that you mentioned. Now there was that as well. I mean, there was bioscience, there's personalized medicine. There were people that another one that was interesting was taking metrics from a basketball. So putting a little device on a basketball, and then when the player would go dribble around and shoot, that tiny device would create all these numbers and metrics.
Probably
So you-
accelerometer or something.
Yes, yeah, exactly, and get a sense for the arc of the ball, and apply numbers to when that player is more successful and when they aren't successful. So this was actually, I believe, in the Covington area that, or the Louisville. Actually, it was, I believe, Cincinnati and Covington area that they were doing that.
So it pretty much sounds like what University of Rio Grande, Ohio State University, what everyone is trying to do is to capture those markets and put out a series of coursework that would benefit not only in the short term but on the long term. And that's where liberal arts comes in. That's where some of the general fields of education might be important, because what is today may not exist tomorrow, and what's tomorrow may not exist today. But you have to have those creative minds. Am I correct?
You couldn't be more correct. I think one thing about higher education now, and I'll invite others to tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel that it seems like what you can count on is change. I mean, the industries all over are changing very, very rapidly, and higher education is no different. Community colleges have been charged with a lot of the fallout from the Great Recession. And so, Rio has a very unique opportunity in that, we have a university that's partnered with our community college, and they work together. And we have very skilled teachers and instructors to address a lot of these problems and in creative ways. I've been told about projects that the University of Rio Grande Community College has done for industry, where they've actually done spec projects, created a fingerprint machine or a fingerprint device for a local company, and that's another opportunity as well, because if we can find ways to incorporate our students into those types of projects where we're directly serving industry and we're creating prototypes, and we're doing that as part of a curriculum, then everybody wins. So I think what you said is exactly right.
I also think that when you look at some of the coursework, Jason is a very good example of when he began his MBA program,
Mm-hmm.
in establishing a business form that would be profitable, financially stable, and in the coursework he was able to really concentrate on how he was going to undertake his business. And a couple of weeks ago we had Jason talk about his business that's very financially stable, growing.
Pat, when we talk about the MBA, the focus is on entrepreneurship, and we've had several businesses that actually were started by students that came through the program.
Yes.
They went through what you're talking about. They did the research, they put together the business plans, and there were several that started, much like myself, that thought their idea was not marketable in this area. And then through the research, they found out there were opportunities, and it became successful. So I was just having that conversation with another faculty member that went through the program, and we were surprised at how many different businesses had actually come out. So.
Well, that is true. As a matter of fact, the course that I'm being blessed with teaching we have one individual that started their own business. And it has been because of, I don't think it would be high tech, but they use technology in a rural area.
Well, I think on the flip side of what Ian was saying is it doesn't have to be high tech, but innovative.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of innovative solutions. I mean, you look, we had Danny Stevens on the show
Yes.
a few weeks back, and he's been very innovative in the things he's done to make his business successful.
Yes.
So,
I'll add that when you look at innovation within a business or within a product, it also applies to how you roll that product out. So an example would be, and many of you guys might know Zappos. Zappos, an online shoe and clothing company. When they got their start in 1999, the founder kind of looked around and said, well, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to sell shoes online. And at that time, that was a question that he had. How am I going to test this market? I can create, buildings full of shoes. I can hire a bunch of staff. I can do this, or I can do what's called lean startup. So this is using creativity to bring yourself to explore the market first. So what he did was he went down to a shoe store and he said, I'm going to take pictures of your shoes and I'm going to put them online. And for each one that sells, I'm going to come down and I'm going to pay you full price for it because I need to know if this is going to take off. And did very well. And so he was able to, launch this company, do the test marketing, actually market it with the planned consumer, and to do so for very little money. And it's, an online business is a little easier to do that than some other businesses. But I think it's kind of a nice model for that endeavor.
Do you know, Ian, we started this program as a student project. And so we used what is called Blog Talk Radio. We still have the channel on there now, free. Who would have thought you could get on the radio station for free? And
that's a great point.
And through the magic of Mike does things.
Magic Mike?
Yeah,
Is that what
Magic
we're saying?
Mike.
Okay.
That's right.
We won't go there.
I've been told to call him that. So
Magical Mike. We ask him to do certain things, and he sits down and he sort of, I can do that, and then it's done, and that's part of the tech, that creative.
Ian, we've got about a minute and a half left. Our time has really flown by. So I want to use that minute and a half and let you tell our listeners how to contact you if they have development needs within their businesses and they would like to touch base with the university and see if we can help. How would they get a hold of you? So share your contact information and how they can reach you.
Okay, so contact Ian Blache. You can reach me by email, iblache@rio.com. And if you want to call,
that would be rio.edu.
Rio.edu.
He's new. It's only been 3 weeks.
Thank you. Okay, I made it. So, and then phone number wise, I'll just give you my cell phone, and I'll probably mess that up too. But it's 614-563-4287. And I think that was 7 digits, right?
It's 614.
That's right. 563
563
4287.
4287.
That's correct.
And iblache at rio.edu.
At rio.edu. Yes.
And that's IBLACHE at
rio.edu.
Okay, good.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.
It's
Glad you
always
joined us.
It was always a pleasure having individuals before you get too busy. We wanted to have you on the show. We expect good things because we have good faculty, good collaboration with other programs, and good students.
I think he's already too busy. You've been running around like a chicken with your head cut off for the last 3 weeks. So
Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome to
It's
Rio.
been fun. It's
Good.
definitely been
Good.
fun so far.
Good.
And I got good people around me.
So anything we can do to help. And next week we have an interesting person. Maybe you want to get his information. He's a bow archer. He strings bows. He's an archer. He built from ground ground up little retail wholesale business, and he's going to be coming on to our show next week.
Look forward to it.
I'm Patrick.
Jason.
Hi, Mike.
I'm Ian. Thank you very much.